Hello and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday. This is a weekly show which covers all the news of Star Citizen from the week just past. I am your host Mac, so let's get on with it. This week, the AopoA Nox goes on sale. We'll learn how star systems are put together, plus we get updates on 3.0, weapons and locations. So I'll get the bad news out of the way first. Some of you may have heard that 3.0 was delayed, and now the intention is for EVA COTI testers to receive it between the 6th and the 20th of July. The PTU testers to get it between the 24th of July to the 3rd of August, and then live around the 10th of August. So it's quite a pushback, unfortunately. But progress is being made. We have seen a lot of work get complete over the last couple of weeks. So fingers crossed we don't get any further delays. So around the verse this week was for the Frankfurt studio update. Starting with the level design, they say they've finished the main part of surface outposts, which have now moved onto the environmental art team. They've got some white boxes for modular hangars and garages, which have been approved. I'm assuming these are for the Levski landing zone. They're focusing on implementing the room systems, breathing environmental interactions like vaulting, elevators and consoles and all that sort of stuff. Levski will have a combination of garages and hangars to spawn ships and vehicles to explore planetary surfaces. They're working on the flagship landing locations for Stanton now, which will include Area 18 and Lawville to start with, and then Orison and New Babbage, and I cannot remember where New Babbage is. I've never heard of Orison though. Anyway, the engine team have worked on capturing atmosphere and sky to seamlessly blend between global atmosphere and local lighting, giving us a higher level of visual fidelity. In AI, they're working on the Buddy AI system, where NPCs will intelligently follow a designated leader. Also worked on ship AI. They say it's one step closer to have a fully controlled ship by subsumption. One sprint they have focused on was combat, which is refining the first reactions for AI enemies seen and heard. So you can see as they're reacting to things, they range from things like casual reactions to quick reactions or reactions to loud noises. These clips verify the appropriate animation for each situation as well. They've also worked on friendly fire to ensure friendlies are identified properly in combat, which is obviously very important. In visual effects, they're working on VFX for planet surface types ranging from footsteps, vehicle tracks, weapon impacts for all types of terrain. They've done some early work on Squadron 42 cinematics, which covers the mesh destruction and deformation animations for Squadron 42 single player missions, so we can see the wall being breached there. Maybe it's a ship doorway or potentially just a hangar. For lighting, the lighting team have been busy bringing all the surface outposts to final lighting. They've also created a prefab library of existing props with lighting elements, and these outposts are looking fantastic. When we get to visit them in 3.0, it's going to be so cool being able to see all the detail inside them. In tech art, they've implemented the game entity for the Kastak Arms Custodian SMG energy rifle, although this looks more like a ballistic weapon, it looks more like a ballistic machine gun than an energy one. Now the animation and visual effects are being worked on it. They're adding features to a tool to allow animators to review their work pretty quickly. They've made progress on the new weapon dynamics and secondary animations. We've got to see the Devastator. This adds one more level of subtle detail and realism to the verse. And it does look like little small details on the weapon will be affected by movement and so forth. It's so much detail there. For the environmental art team, the ground materials have been improved for all three moons. They're adding a more varied breakup of materials. They're wrapping up work on the landing pads for all surface outposts, giving the players a stable, solid landing point rather than hoping that you touch down safely on just the moon itself. Delamar is getting a final polish with geometry and materials being updated and fine-tuned. Also getting an effect pass as well, adding an extra layer of visual interest to the environment and the atmosphere. The surrounding area of Levski will have more areas of interest for the players to explore. That's one thing I am most looking forward to, is getting out of Levski and just checking out the surfaces around there. I wonder if that's where the drug lab would be. It would make sense. Anyway, they're putting some final touches on the customs area for Levski as well, making it somewhat difficult for items to be smuggled in. They did say that everyone will pass through here, so it needs to have a lot of fidelity to it. I do wonder if they'll allow us to bring our weapons inside and just have security holding us off, or if we have to give up our weapons at the door I guess time will tell. Garages are close to being done and included. Once ready, we can request a vehicle to go exploring the surface, as we've said, and elevators are also being updated too. Now, for programming, they've finished up weapon features for 3.0. They've completed the first iteration of doors and airlocks, which have been mentioned recently, and network code for a new weapon system is being fleshed out. In cinematics, they say they are testing a new hologram tech, which will provide holo volume with content, and it says that you can it can be used, I believe, in real time for mission briefings, but also used for ship comm calls between other ships. Again, in real time and displayed on your MFD. So does this mean that we'll be able to hail other ships, and will we be visually appearing on their screens, talking in real time? You know, our characters talking. I'd like to get people's thoughts on that. If that's what it means, that's what I got from it. That sounds very cool. The QA team are testing the SIG data patcher. Testing has been done daily. The main goal is to ensure that there's no differences between the builds. But while we saw this, we saw a really great scene of 3 sabers flying in formation planetside. It looks just incredible. The subsumption editor testing continues as new versions come available as well, and it's all good on that front. The system design team, they say the air traffic control system is coming along well and will soon be ready. They've started work on an FPS companion and buddy AI system, including orders and behaviours. The weapons team have blocked out numerous weapon grips and optic attachments to work with the new rail system. They're also testing the existing guns, or testing this on the existing guns. That little scope looks so much detail to that. They've completed a first pass blockout on the Clausen-Werner laser LMG. This is sort of a light machine gun laser weapon. In ship weapons, they've finished the Preacher armament distortions, sizes 4 to 6, and upgraded levels 1 to 3. They've done a first pass blockout and rough animations for the Clausen-Werner laser repeater, sizes 1 to 3, the Newton repeater, sizes 1 to 3, and the Apocalypse Arms ballistic scattergun, 1 to 3. Now, we also got to see what looks like the Max Ox. I think that might be the Neutron repeater. I could be wrong there. But anyway, after this, they had a ship shape for the Nox. Now, this was designed by Chris Smith. I have done a separate video on this if you want to check it out. The link will be in the description below. He used real-life motorcycles as reference. We got to see a very cool trailer for the Nox, so I'll play that in the background. But in what I've heard is that the Nox is like a superbike, and the Dragonfly is more like what you would class as like a Harley Davidson. That's a really good way of putting it. It's made by AopoA, which is a Jean ship manufacturer, and it uses a lot of the similar tech that we saw in the Katsu Al, or the Jean Scout. Now, they said it was designed to compete with the Dragonfly. Although the Dragonfly is more for exploration, the Nox is built for racing and combat. It's fast, nimble, and very powerful in combat. It's a lot smaller than the Dragonfly as well, so I wonder if we can fit a lot more of them in the Caterpillar. You can't really compare it to the Dragonfly, as they have completely different specs. One is more for exploring, as said. The other one is quick. It's useful for combat. It's used for racing. They're 2 completely different ships. Anyway, it uses this Jean magnetic tech. The animations look fantastic. There's a mix between metals and exotic materials. They said that the Nox skin will be armoured. A rear shell rises to protect the rider from behind. It's got a much more aggressive position for the rider. Definitely suited for racing. It's more maneuverable. They use a holographic HUD system as well to minimise the screens. Now, the holo screen seemed to flicker to life like the Van Duel screen does. I hope this won't be the case for the ship, because this ship was designed for humans, not stolen and hacked for humans to use like the Van Duel ships are. They've got the damage done too, and it appears to split into 3 sections. Also, when you shoot the ship, you will see the internal structure. Like this new damage tech, it's like what we see with other ships. There were some nice subtle lighting effects too for the headlights and the cockpit lights. So it's pretty much ready, and I think, in my opinion, this might be the reason why we saw this ship come first rather than the 600i concept series. Because it's going to be in 3.0. They want to put it in 3.0. The 600 series is a much bigger ship. It would take far longer to create, so this is my expectations there. I would love people to join me and drag race along the moons. I'll pile as many Nox into my Caterpillar, and we'll head down to the planet and give it a good old race down there. Anyway, the final segment for ATV was focused on SOLED, or the Solar System Editor. When it comes to building a complete solar system in Star Citizen, they needed a tool which would make it easier and quicker than what they currently had. Star Citizen will hold around 100 solar systems to start with, each with between 1 to 13 planets, and each planet with their own moons, and their own moons with satellites and their own, other points of interest. They created the Solar System Editor, or SOLAD, to help with this. They start with the system start and put that at the coordinates 0, 0, 0, X, Y, Z. Then they drag in the star's children, which are the planets, arrange them in the right place. Then they drag in the children for the planets, which are the moons, and then they bring those children's children in, which are the satellites. If you're still with me, I'm sure it's making sense. Anyway, very easily, it gave them, you can give them the orbital distance, all within a matter of minutes, so it's much quicker to set up these systems. The old system, which they used to create the Crusader map for 2.0, they didn't have all these intricacies as they do with SOLAD. Changing the system scales in SOLAD can be done easily by just inputting a new scale, and then the whole system changes accordingly compared to the old system, which didn't do that. Now, this is why we often saw random sizes of Crusader and the unusual locations for the systems in the mini PU. Crusader, they say, will be a gas giant entity rather than a typical planet entity, which they are still working on the shaders for, but the shaders will give it a really great image with visible storms and eyes and wisps and things going on. When it got close to the star map deadline, so they needed to create the star map with all the systems on, they didn't want the systems to be to clearly be fiction. They wanted them to be as realistic as possible, but without destroying the fun and the imagination. So they hired a load of astrophysicists, gave them the brief for all the systems, and then they handed back this huge spreadsheet of updates to Star Citizen systems. After which the Lord team learned a hell of a lot about star types, green bands, life, evolving timelines, asteroid belt volumes, loads of things. When we see a system in Star Citizen, they are extremely accurate because of all this help from the astrophysicists. They did mention that the solar systems in Star Citizen are generally going to be 1/10 or 10% of the actual size. So Sol, for example, our own system, the system is going to be 1/10 of the real system, which in turn they're hoping will naturally, without too much messing around, create an accurate system with a day-night cycle scaling down perfectly to maybe a day. I guess if it's 10% of a full day, so 24 hours would be about 2.4 hours real time. That could work. I could see that being a full day rotation for us to play in game. It seems to scale appropriately. But the same applies to distance and time travelled between planets. So it would make sense, it would work in the simulation, plus not be too long nor too short. Now, they did say that the game asteroid belts will be much denser than in real life because it has more fun to it. They also mentioned that space be weird because there is such a thing as a diamond planet, a planet made completely of diamonds. There's a planet which rains glass. There's a stellar cloud which apparently tastes like raspberry schnapps, and a gas giant which is as black as coal. Now, the last one they said they will include in the game. The other ones, probably not so much. But these, space is weird. This is supposed to be real. There is one example which they said they're not going to give us the exact area, but it took 20 minutes to go from one end of the system to the other end in quantum drive. Now, we do have entertainment on board, and that's probably a large example of one system that will take forever, take 20 minutes. I'm quite happy with that. Obviously, not everyone wants to be stuck in quantum travel for 20 minutes just to get from one end to the next. I think as if that's an extreme size, the one end of the spectrum, I think that will actually work pretty well. While you quantum travel, you can get up, walk around. If you've got friends on board, so on and so forth, you can interact with them. And if something was approaching, then it would drag you out of quantum travel, and you'll have to run back to your cockpit. Now, they did say the Stanton system will be 800,000 kilometers across. This is after scaling it down by 10%. Now, all these planets are going to take time to build, but this system is really sort of making it a lot quicker for them. And once they get all these little systems and tools set up and working, it will just be a matter of days, weeks, months until all the systems are functioning properly and done. So this is a very, very major tool, very important for the development of Star Citizen, and I'm glad they brought us a deep dive on it. Anyway, let me know your thoughts, guys. Let's move on. So the AopoA Nox went on sale this week. The Nox is an open canopy racer designed specifically for humans, taken from the original Jean version. Now, it is due to big demand in the racing scene, and it follows this recent Jean Human Trade Initiative, or HUXA as it's known, that they decided to develop it as part of building the relationship between the humans and the Jean. It's built with lightweight composite materials to provide maximum speed and maneuverability in both atmosphere and vacuum. So its focus is space or ground racing. It is 6 meters in length. It weighs 1 ton. It can hold 1 person. It has 1 primary engine, 16 maneuvering thrusters and 1 power plant, plus 1 shield. All of this is to be determined in terms of sizing, and 1 size 1 fixed mount holding 2 laser cannons. Now the pricing is as followed. For an LTI standalone Warbond edition, it is $35. The non-Warbond is $40. Warbond means that you can't use credit. If you're going to buy the Warbond ones, it has to be cash. The Nox Q, or the silver version, this is like a limited edition one. The Warbond and non-Warbond are priced as above, $35 and $40. They have packaged some deals together as well. You can get 2 LTI Nox Warbond for $65 or $75 for the non-Warbond ones. You can get a Starfarer and 2 Nox with the Warbond for $345, or without the Warbond, $365. Or you could go and get 5 Nox LTI pack, with the Warbond being $145 and non being $180. Now there was a cool brochure for it as well. It says in it that the humans used to pay a fortune in getting hold of and adapting these old Jan bikes for human use in open canopy races. As I say, after this Huxer initiative has been passed, AopoA designed one specifically for humans. Terra, the planet, is teaming up with AopoA to create a new Terra Jan racing club known as Texa. I expect if you're good enough, you'll be able to eventually race with this, or for a racing club, including maybe Terra Jan Racing Club or Texa. I love that we'll be able to go planet side and watch and spectate, or even compete in these open canopy races. It also mentions that the weapons can be used in races that feature combat, and we did hear about the Abel Baker Underground race where there is a section in that race where weapons are activated. It does say though that killing is frowned upon, so do not intend to kill them, just try and disable their ships. Now the people who should really look into buying this ship, or the Nox, are those who love racing and want to take part in open canopy racing. Apparently it's good for combat as well, so it would be great for security or law enforcement as a quick response bike. Security could use it maybe to protect VIP or ground assets, but also for open canopy enthusiasts or collectors. If you like these bike style ships, I'm 100% sure there'll be many more of them coming down the line. So if you do like it, pick one up and then you can show them off in your hangars. Don't forget that courtesy of my patrons, we are giving away a Star Citizen starter package. In order to win, you must be a subscriber and just leave a comment on any of my videos throughout the month of June to stand a chance. So also this week in Citizens of the Stars, it was Vincent Sinatra, the dev, answering the quantum questions, and Utho Riley was the community guest. Utho Riley creates some of the best fan music in the community, so do check him out. I think he's on YouTube. There was an Untold Tale post titled The Unanswered Cry, but I've not read this yet, so please no spoilers. And finally, Lawmakers brought us the Tyrol system. So that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you for watching, and thank you to our subscribers, plus a massive thank you to our patrons as you make this possible. If you like what we do and want to help us make it better, follow the link in the description to our Patreon page to learn more.